Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the TexAgs High School Football Show, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy has all your high school football road trip needs this season. Get the right gear for the long season with free curbside pickup today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. What's up, everybody? Week 3 of the TexAgs High School Football Show, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Ryan Brauninger. He's Jason Howell. Little new digs, thanks to Dalton Hughes for letting me use his office. If you hear some hammering, some screw driving, some power tools in the background, we are currently upgrading our office and doing some renovations. So just bear with me on that throughout the duration of this episode. But Jason, what a week in Texas high school football. We saw some insane stat lines, some huge wins. I know in the greater Houston area, you were all over Dallas. Kind of take us through what you saw and what you liked up there.
Well, I started my day off on Thursday, or my weekend off rather, on Thursday at Skyline Lakeview Centennial. Skyline's had a little rough run, trying to get in the win column, and this was a good weekend. A lot of people thought they may be able to get over that hump, and man, they controlled the first half, but it was not to be. They fall 24-22, a lot of unforced errors and penalties and things like that really got in their way down the stretch. But I was there to see Bo Barnes, 2025 linebacker at Skyline, played all over the field. Go check out those highlights. There's clips of him coming off the edge, coming downhill in the middle, getting after the quarterback, chasing down running backs and receivers, dropping into coverage. He did a little bit of everything at right around 6'2", 215, big frame. Just showed why he was, he's highly regarded in that 2025 class. But overall, it was a highly competitive game. Skyline, like I said, controlled the first half, but went to halftime down 7-3 because Lakeview Centennial got that offense rolling right before halftime and put one in the end zone, right before they went to the locker rooms. And then Skyline came back out and the wheels just fell completely off the wagon. They put themselves in the 21-3 hole. But right as I posted in the thread, they need to do something real quick or they're about to really, see this thing get blown wide open. They hit a deep ball over the middle and come right back and take a 22-21 lead with two more scores after that. So they scored and got right back in the lead. And then at that last drive, there was a 3rd and 37 conversion by Lakeview Centennial. There were penalties and personal fouls, including a field goal that Lakeview Centennial missed, but Skyline got a roughing the kicker penalty, 15 yards closer, and another try with no time left on the clock. Centennial knocks it through. The lights go out. No post-game handshake. I mean, it was pitch black. You couldn't see anything. And nothing bad happened, but it did get a little chaotic there. And it was kind of like, okay, it's time to leave. So, no post-game interviews or anything like that. Was able to catch up with Bo later. But, it was a heartbreaker. But I tell you what, Skyline's getting closer. I think they've got the talent. They've got some guys. They've got some really strong coaching. It's part of that's just getting over that edge, getting over that hump and knowing you can win and doing it. And I don't know, that district's going to be tough for them, but Skyline's right there on the verge, and I'll be interested to see. I spent a lot of time on that game, didn't I? SOC 42-21. Lancaster's Kiwan Lacey, 3-touchdown night, had 15 carries for 308 yards, and he looked every bit like a top flight running back, but that was all Lancaster had, and SOC took control. Let me tell you, I think SOC has a chance to repeat, whatever it's going to be, that offense, man, they've got a rhythm. They've got good balance. They mix it up really well. Quarterback William Little is efficient and makes really good decisions, and he finds He's got receivers. He's got blocking. They're going to be fun to watch. And that defense may have fallen off just a little bit just because you lose a lot. But but they look really good. Kind of like DeSoto, man. That offense found its rhythm early, and that they look like they have that opportunity to be very explosive. But there to see Jaden Shelton mainly, and he finished the night with 9 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a PBU, and showed a lot of great range. He's probably one of the more natural linebackers when it comes to seeing the game and being in position to make plays. He's that guy, I think, that probably sees the field a little bit better than some of those other backers out there in that 25 class, and that gives him a bit of an edge. But he's also right there, 6'2", 210 pounds, and he's got track in his genes. So watch out for him. Definitely a guy that A&M's on, and Coach Durkin has made a priority there. And then I closed it with a half of Duncanville's 44-0 win over Rockledge on Saturday. This one was close for a quarter, and Duncanville was kind of shooting themselves in the foot with some sloppy play, some fumbled snaps, some miscues. Caden Durham had a surefire touchdown he was ruled out of bounds at the 1. But he was picking up chunks of yards. DK Moore had 2 receptions for 119 yards and a touchdown. Keelan Russell, he dialed up the deep ball, and he showed off his wheels as well, with about a 50, 60-yard run. Alex January and Colin Simmons did big things up front. KJ Ford as a 26, definitely to keep an eye on, one of A&M's recent offers. But they went to a half up 28-0, and I headed for the car. I was like, all right, let's go. Duncanville doesn't do a whole lot of interviews sometimes, so I bowed out early to try and catch a little bit of the A&M game.
Well, and you mentioned that sock defense, and it's hard not to imagine that they may take some kind of step back early because you lose a guy in Javon Thomas and Malik Muhammad, who they both played quite a bit in their college debuts on Saturday.
Well, and for them, Javon's not going to be as big of a miss because he didn't play a whole lot of defense there. He was mainly on offense for them, especially last fall. But I mean, they lost a ton of guys. They lost several to, TCU, SMU, but they do return Jaden Shelton at linebacker, and BJ Jones there at right next to him, who is a stud. Just when it comes to overall defensive players and guys who just get it, BJ is one of the best. He's just a little bit undersized. He's committed to UNT, but he's kind of a tweener, and that's kind of kept him off of the bigger schools' radars. But he's been there in the middle of that defense for years. So they get him back, and they've got some guys, some talent. Once they get some games under their belt and they get their feet wet, man, it's going to be a scary defense. They got some athletes out there, and they've got some DBs that are stepping up in bigger roles, but they can play. So it's going to be fun to watch that team come together. And I have high aspirations for them. Like I said, I think I picked them to go back and claim another. But it's
Melissa's might make it tough on them. They're playing extremely well early.
Yeah, I mean, Melissa is looking great. I'm starting to wonder a little bit about Argyle. I mean, they took another big L, but regardless, you've got Melissa's stacked with talent. I think quarterback play was something that people were wondering about going into the season, and they are putting up points, and they've got guys on defense and up front on the O-line. They've got the team. They've got a strong mentality. They are not a finesse team. They will flat out run you over and bring the physicality to you. And Sock found that out last year in the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But yeah, there's going to be plenty of contenders for Sock, no doubt about it.
Not much for me to recap on Thursday night. 57-6 win for Montgomery Lake Creek over Fort Bend Elkins. Went down there to see 2026 offensive lineman and Texas A&M legacy Hunter McKinney, who actually got told on Wednesday, the day before the game, that he would have to play tackle
Ooh.
after playing in the interior all year because their starting tackle
Mm.
got injured and was on one of those rolling kind of crutch deals. And I thought Hunter McKinney played extremely well. Like, I text his dad during the game, and I text Billy during the game, and I was like, "Look, man, like, this little McKinney kid's got a chance." And I thought he was really good. Obviously, great genes, but
Yeah.
coming into his own as an offensive lineman, and if he keeps putting out tape like that, I think that A&M would be it would behoove A&M to go ahead and get on the board early with an offer if they think the measurables all check out. But it certainly looks like he's on his way. Story of the night for Lake Creek was 2025 running back Ty Byers,
Love it.
14 carries, 163 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And look, man, I wrote about him today in Bronny's Best. It's just you don't see power backs, true power backs, very
Yeah.
often anymore in the state of Texas. Everybody's gone to these spread kind of shifty guys, and that's fine. But I
Hmm.
think because of how Ty plays, I think he's created a little bit of a niche for himself. But 8 touchdowns so far in the season rushing. That puts him over 50 in his career, and he's only a junior there at
Yeah.
Lake Creek. And they've got a really explosive offense. I also really like their quarterback, junior Eli Morcos. And
Mm.
on Friday night, headed over to Huffman Hargrave. First time I'd ever been to Huffman Hargrave, but Silsby came to town. So I told Draylon Miller and the Silsby staff, I said, "Hey, appreciate y'all meeting me halfway for once." And so, yeah, Draylon, 4 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Also ran the ball a couple of times, had an interception on defense that was negated by a roughing the quarterback call. It's interesting, right? Because Silsby's got another playmaker on the other side of the field named Ashton Cartwright. Who'll be probably a non-power 5 kid, maybe an FCS kid, but I like him a lot. Super talented, but it's Draylon Miller, and everybody knows it, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
wherever Draylon goes on the field, the entire Huffman defense was pointing at him. When he'd go back and play Wildcat quarterback, they were suffocating the line of scrimmage. So how Coach Randy Smith and that staff get creative later in the year, when they
Hmm.
run into a Hampshire Fournette or even a Jasper, 2 state-ranked teams, it'll be really interesting to kind of see how they navigate those defensive game plans. Because look, man, Draylon is the Debo Samuel comparison. I think is pretty apt. He's just a big,
Yeah.
physical, smooth runner. The touchdown catch was kind of like a little stop, 3 yard stop that he just shook a guy, then stiff armed a kid to the ground. And I thought Huffman Hargrave on the night did a good job limiting the space that they were giving him,
Hmm.
especially because they were rolling coverages that way. But when he did get some space, you kind of saw that special ability to be a playmaker. So, we all know about Draylon. We've watched Draylon for a couple years. We think he's one of the best football players in the state of Texas. There wasn't anything that happened on Friday night that made me believe anything otherwise or anything close to the sort. So, big win. Silsby pulls away 41-14 there over Huffman Hargrave. Jason, when we look around the state of Texas, I think we have to start a record setter in Central Texas. Liberty Hill 82, Hutto 80. And check out this stat line for Hutto quarterback Will Hammond, who's committed to Texas Tech. 36 of 53, 719 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns. He also ran for another 88 yards and 6 touchdowns. What is that total? 719 plus 88, over 800 yards, 807 yards of total offense.
That's a
That is
season.
and completely ridiculous. And they lost the game
Yeah.
to the slot team Mafia. I mean, I know you've got some games you wanted to highlight up there, but
No,
that is incredible.
that is yeah, man. I'm just I, I feel bad for all the defenders in those meeting rooms this week going
Just
over
burn
that
it, man.
film. That's
No,
that's
don't even go over it. Just burn it.
yeah, forget about it. Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing you can take from that as a defense. But geez, yeah. I mean, Will Hammond is just he's a phenomenal talent. He's one of the state's best for a reason. And that yeah, like I said, you could probably put together a 20-minute highlight reel just from that game alone. So yeah, that's incredible. I'm glad I didn't have to cover it. I'm sure it took way too long to watch, but my goodness, what exciting football taking on the 6-man mentality there.
Well, what else around Dallas did you like?
Well, I mentioned a few a few games. I mentioned Argyle falling to Lovejoy, big 42-14
Lovejoy's off to
loss.
a great start.
And Argyle is, man, they're struggling. I know they play two of the state's best, but they've struggled to put points on the board and stay with two teams, Melissa and Lovejoy, that if you're going to be up there competing for a state championship, those are two teams you need to be at least close with. Alito over Guy 48-45. And
Ross Haney, man.
I'm telling you, Hoss Haney. That's what. Hey, I think Alito's headed back there too, man. Watch out. They are rolling, and they are taking on all comers, and they have looked phenomenal this year. They've got playmakers all over the place. Freshman running back Racine, goodness gracious, I'm blanking on his last name. He had another big game. Highlighted him a few weeks ago, but my goodness, he's phenomenal. Great vision and balance, and Aleto's going to be tough to beat. Like I said, Hoss Haney, senior quarterback. And the shocker for me was Cedar Hill over Arlington Martin, 33-2.
That's pretty dominant.
I know Wager is gone from Martin, took the job in Nebraska. And so he's no longer the head coach at Martin this year. But man, Cedar Hill coming off a loss to Rockwall that, man, Rockwall blew their doors off, but they come back and they make a statement with the 33-2 win over a talented Martin team.
Well, I asked before the season started in Greater Houston, could anyone upset or unseat, Katy and North Shore at the top? And I said, if there's anybody that could this year, I think Atascocita's got a shot. Well, what happened? On Friday night, they beat Katy 42-34. What an enormous win for Coach Stump.
Yeah.
I think this is the best scenario Atascocita's had to make it out of Houston in a while. And Katy is just they're kind of unsettled at quarterback. Katy's a machine, so they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So it'll kind of depend on who goes to what division, I think, as well. But Atascocita, that matchup with North Shore is going to be really interesting because the Mustangs aren't taking a backseat to anybody ever. But again, this year with their quarterback Caleb Bailey being back and healthy, so but a huge win for Atascocita, and I think really made some noise around Houston. Another one I want to point out: Fort Bend Hightower edges out Spring Westfield 14-9 in a defensive struggle. This is a game last year that I went to, right? And Spring Westfield absolutely blew the doors off of Fort Bend Hightower last year. Non-competitive from the jump. And in 1 year, head coach Cornelius Anthony has turned that around. Hightower, they've got a lot of really good players. They're not going to take a backseat to anybody coming off the bus either. Real physical, good-looking group. And I thought that was a hugely impressive win in Greater Houston for Coach CA in the Hurricanes down there. And then I have three teams to keep an eye on now.
All right.
These are teams that weren't ranked in the preseason top 25 in 6A.
Okay.
They've all started off 2-0, and some of these have been really quality wins. Bridgeland, under new head coach Lonnie Madison, they beat Katy Tompkins in a thriller this weekend.
Yeah.
Houston Lamar they railroaded the Woodlands.
Yeah, the Woodlands off to a tough start too.
Yeah,
my goodness.
Like you mentioned Argyle. I think the Woodlands you'd have to throw in that group like kind of head scratching starts. But Houston Lamar, big numbers. We're actually going to go see them this week. Kate, our assistant, I think is going to head down to watch them play. And then the third one is Klein Oak. And Klein Oak beat Cinco Ranch pretty handily. They opened their season with a blowout win over Spring Decaney. They got a really big physical back. I was talking about Ty Byers. Another one that Klein Oak's got is Jacob Everson in the 25 class. Really put together young man and runs the ball hard. So just keep an eye. Those are three teams that weren't talked about a lot in the preseason and now started off 2-0 in Greater Houston. And I think, one of those is going to have some staying power near the top of the teams in Houston. So just something to watch and pump for Lonnie Madison, a good friend of ours, a good friend of
No doubt.
I tell you what, that 2025 tackle he's got there, Jonte Newman, is a big-time prospect.
He looked good, man, when we saw him at camp. So that's no surprise. And that Bridgeland program, they produced a few guys over the years.
So far, at least. It's a relatively new one. All right, where you headed this week?
Well, I'm gonna be out at Fort Worth, out in Fort Worth for Arlington Heights going up against Waco U. I want to get a look at Texas A&M offer London Smith, receiver, athlete, safety. His dad played at Baylor. Really athletic, considered one of the top receiver prospects in that 2026 class early on. It's already reeling in the offer. So going to get out there to see him. On Friday, the plan is Melissa Royce City. Nigel Smith making a decision. OU kind of thought to be have the edge right now, but he's making his choice before the game, and you got 2025 O line target Owen Hollenbeck out there moving some people around there against Royce City. And then that's going to be my weekend. So that's the plan right now. Maybe Saturday get the chance to watch a little A&M Miami.
There you go. Well, on Thursday night, Cade, our assistant, is efforting to get to Clear Falls, hosting Houston Lamar. Want to see 2025 Houston Lamar offensive lineman and A&M offer Jamad Odoms. He got offered and been kind of flying under the radar. So we want to get some eyes on him. The guy moves around. And then on Friday, I believe he will be at Alvin hosting Beaumont United to see A&M offensive line commit Weston Davis move around against the Alvin Yellow Jackets. For me on Thursday, and I'm going to need some help here. I'm going to see Lake Belton, who I know all about with Micah Hudson, Selman Bridges, and their crew there for Coach Cope. But they're hosting a DFW team in Red Oak, who I don't know a lot about Red Oak, but I know Kamar Morgan's a good player. I know Braden Robinson can really run. I know Taz Williams is a good player. So like break down Red Oak.
Man, they got some guys. They're going to put up some points. Yeah, I look for a high scoring contest. They got an offense that can run with anybody. They got a running back that he can hit the hole and get and pick up some yardage. And Herche, he's not the elite prospect that those others are, but he's definitely good enough, especially in the high school ranks. You've got a stout defense, with Zach Smith at linebacker, who's trained by Donnie Baggs. A little shout out to the bag man over there. Yeah, Donnie's got him flying around, and they've got a lot of playmakers on both sides of the ball. This is a game that's been highly competitive the last several years, or last few years. I think last year it went to overtime. Yeah, you mentioned those three. I look for Robinson and Taz to really, have some highlight. You should have no problem with highlights with them along with Micah Hudson.
Yeah, Micah's off to a fantastic start here in 2023. And then Friday night, I'm going to go Katie against Katie Tompkins and see offensive line commits pair off against each other. Cohen Eccles and Katie and Ashton Fuckett, Katie Tompkins. Interesting that both of those are coming off of both those schools coming off losses.
Yeah.
So interesting that matchups. And then another one I'm keeping an eye on, Summer Creek against Klein Collins. Both of those are schools that now are in the top 20, I believe, in the state 6A rankings. Should be really interesting. Good litmus test for both of those before they enter district. But I mean, we're in the thick of it now, Jason. It feels like we're rocking and rolling in this high school football season. So be careful on the road, and we gotta. What's that?
Yeah, I know, man. We got a lot, and here in Dallas, I know we got Lucas Lovejoy at North Crowley at Lucas Lovejoy. That's a big one I'm going to be watching. Geyer goes to Lancaster. You got a little Stephenville at Decatur, and on Saturday, Sock and DeSoto going head to head in Kincaid. So that should be a pretty good matchup. All those are going to be fun to watch. I look for a lot of scoring in every one of those. But like you said,
I screwed up the schedule again. So twice last week I screwed up my schedule because during the show last week I said, watch out for Houston Legacy against Jasper. That's actually this week.
No, there you go.
Legacy travels to Jasper if you're in Southeast Texas and want to see a bunch of A&M targets and commits.
Yeah.
Like 5 or 6 in that game alone. All right. For Jason Howell, I'm Ryan Brauninger. Thank you for tuning in to the TexAgs High School Football Show.